So some of you are here really early for the play, so I'm hopeful that that means that you're not just keeping out of weather, but you're actually here to talk about the plays beforehand, which is really cool. We don't do this ordinarily. In fact, I have a huge, gigantic aversion to things like curtain speeches. I don't find them useful when people come out beforehand, to say things. And so whenever I've had to make them, turn off your cell phones or something, I feel really self-conscious doing things like that. I'm a lot more annoyed by people telling people to turn off their cell phones than I am by the fact of cell phones going off, which they almost never do anymore. So this is a departure. We choose carefully the times that we talk about plays instead of just letting the play stand for itself. I think for the most part, letting works of art do their own talking is a good idea. But there are some things about these plays that I think, cell phones! There are some things about this particular one. There are a couple of reasons to talk about it, and then I hope that you're able to stay afterwards for a discussion, more to share your thoughts about what you thought about the ideas in the play. And to talk about it with the cast. The couple things, I think one thing that's useful for Thornton is just sort of some entrance, some preparation for what to think about them. A long play that doesn't follow our normal, ordinary day conventions, most of us get used to in 5 minutes. And get the sort of the language in which it's talking. We're used to movies have a language, have rules. We know that the camera pans across some valley and there's mist and there's a lone violin playing this sort of Appalachian music and then a heron flies slowly across the thing. I mean, what possible choices of movies do we have? This is not a detective story in New York. It's either a love story or it's the Appalachian Boonie people are doing some weird thing or something like that. We know that it's telling us information there. We know that when the hand reaches for the doorknob, that's really important. You don't show the guy, people in a movie open doors thousands of times. And one movie in 50 shows you a hand reaching for a doorknob, right? And that's because there's some significance there. So the camera is saying, hey, pay attention to this. And we do. He's going to come in. Oh no, what are they going to do? Look out, the guy's coming. We know those rules and conventions. And we can leap from one convention to another as long as we have a little warning and know what language the movie is using. One of the problems with Thornton Wilder's short plays is that the 5 minutes of adjustment to figure out what the language is of the conventions, the play's over. By the time you've figured out what it's doing, it's done. A really, really long play, Youth, tonight, is about 40 minutes. So, you have a little more opportunity to sort of get into Wilder's head and see what he's doing with that play than you do with the really, really short plays. I was just talking to Tom, right? Who was a high school teacher for years, as I understand, about Wilder. And, most of us know Our Town, or have heard of it. Most of us know Matchmaker or its brilliant descendant, Hello Dolly. We might even know The Skin of Our Teeth is a Pulitzer Prize-winning dramatic work of literature. He also won it for his novel, The Bridge to San Luis Rey. And when I was in high school, I read Pullman Car Hiawatha and The Head Journey from Trenton and Camden. And they were sort of presented in our high school. I was doing my senior term paper in high school on the theater of the absurd, a movement in the 50s that was very closely connected to existential art and the meaningless of not life, that kind of thing. And in that, I got directed to these 2 plays by Thornton Wilder, which are actually from the 30s, not the 50s, and he predated most of that theater of the absurd move by a couple of decades. And those 2 plays stuck with me as plays that were interesting, and they're occasionally produced, those 2 particular plays, and they're a little different. Pullman Car Hiawatha, a little bit like Our Town, has people come out and speak their interior monologues. If you do a certain kinds of acting training, you'll talk about the interior monologue. I say, "Good morning, Mother," and she says, put your socks away. And there's all kinds of interior stuff going on inside of us between those two lines, "Good morning, Mother," and "Put your socks away." There's a whole history, there's a whole lifetime for the child of history with the mother that goes on inside of you that we don't say. We don't say, "Good morning, Mother, and I know I'm late, my socks are in the wrong place, and you've been really grouchy, and but I really love you, and I really want your approval, and why can't," we don't say all those sentences. We might be better off if we did, but we don't. So we just say, "Good morning, Mother, and put your socks away." And what Wilder does in some of his plays in our town, as well as in Pullman Car Hiawatha, is to bring some of those interior monologues out front. Shakespeare does it too. We call them soliloquies when he does it. And it's a little different. Every playwright does that a little different. But Wilder's trying to get at what's going on inside of people. And the plot is not the central thing in Wilder's plays. Often it's not. We're so used to plot being the central thing. What happens isn't what matters to most of us most of the time. I mean, what happened to you today that is central to your life, that 25 years from now you'll talk about? For most of you, probably very little today. I mean, maybe today's a red letter day and something big did. But for most of us, most days are, by definition almost, ordinary. And they're just part of the whole accumulation of days that adds up into what does matter to us, which is who we are and what our relationships are with other people, primarily. And a relationship with God, for those who have that. It's hard to write a play about that. When we think of a play about relationships, we naturally think of a play about love, by which we mean romantic love, by which we mean the first few hours or days or weeks of romantic love. We very rarely have a play that centers on romantic love of people who've been married for 25 years. Unless there's a problem, right? The play is about they're on the verge of separation, or they actually get divorced, or there's an affair, or that's what it's about. It's about falling in love. It's not about being in love. And that's almost necessarily what plot has to do. Plot has to have something happen. Wilder, to a very great extent, eschewed them. Often, in many of the plays, not in all of them. I mean, Youth has a pretty conventional plot, for the most part, you'll find out. Relatively conventional for Wilder. But what he wants to do is to have us look at people. He wants us to understand. I don't know what he wants. What do I know what Thornton Wilder wants? His plays seem to invite us to think about people. I liken it a lot. I don't know if you're at all familiar with the imagistic poets that dominated America, particularly in the 40s, 50s, into the 60s. William Carlos Williams and others. My favorite William Carlos Williams poem is "So much depends upon the red wheelbarrow beside the way." So much depends upon the red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the way chickens. That's a whole poem, and it's really cool. And I've taught that poem for so many years and tried to convert, and mostly failed, I think, at converting students to loving that poem. So much depends on, why? Well, picture a red wheelbarrow with rainwater and some chickens. I don't know. The poet is saying, hey, look, here's a moment of actual existence. And one moment of actual existence beats an eternity of theoretical existence, hands down. All the ideas and artsiness and highfalutenness in the world don't add up to one red wheelbarrow. I don't know if that resonates with anybody. It does very much with me. In fact, I think it was Studio Academy when they used to be in the old building, which is now the Red Theater, up near Silver Lake. It had like this is one of the exact centers of the universe painted across it. Is that where it is? Or is that the Art Center in Minneapolis? I don't know where I've seen this. Is that where it is? Okay. This is one of the exact centers of the universe. And, at first, okay, whatever. But, there's actually some profundity to that thought. Timothy Alexander is the most important person in the universe. That's a true statement. An irrefutable true statement. Claire Dahlman is the most important person in the universe. Another true and irrefutable statement. The difference being that to Timothy Alexander feels like the center of the universe, if not the most important person in it. And to David Driscoll, I feel that I am this. We all see the world from our own perspectives. Wilder's plays want to take us and say, hey, look at this red wheelbarrow man. Look at Timothy Alexander a minute. Look at this thing over here a minute. Look at that thing over there a minute. What's the significance? You tell me. And I think Wilder does that a lot. You tell me. Shakespeare said that in Hamlet, he had Hamlet say that art holds a mirror up to nature. And in that, Hamlet is, in one part of the play, Hamlet is telling the actors to act naturally. Rather than sawing the air, as many of our actors do, rather than being melodramatic. And we certainly see a lot of melodrama in a lot of acting. You may say so tonight, I don't know. You may think it is. I hope not. But if we just hold a mirror up to nature and have people act like they act in real life, what's a scene? Well, David, think about your relationship with your mother. Okay? Next. Right? What do? Think about your relationship with your mother. Oh, Mom! Why can't you accept me as I am? Or, Mom! Oh, I miss you so. I miss you. There are a lot of things that we can do to exaggerate that point. Most of us don't like most of that. But it's funny, here's an interesting phenomenon that I think I've observed, that the acting style that we like in movies is hard to translate onto the stage. Movies can zoom the camera in for the close-up, and you can lift your right eyebrow 1/4 of a centimeter, and we get exactly the new expression on the actor's face, right? You do that at the Guthrie. You do that even here, up there at least. It has no visible effect. And yet, you go, oh, Mom! We don't want that either. You watch movies, it's interesting to watch movies from the 30s, shortly after sound came in. The earliest movies were very melodramatic, with great big huge eyebrows and things, because they're imitating the makeup that was the norm in the big giant proscenium theaters, where melodrama ruled. And movies hadn't yet learned things like, that the audience knew, which was, there's a microphone actually quite near you. You actually don't need to talk that loud. You're going to miss some of our lines tonight. You're not going to hear some of them. Sorry. But you're not. And we want in places, there are different moments and different things that happen in the different places. But there's some very natural moments where people are talking very naturally. And you know what? I hardly ever say to my wife, oh, darling, I love you. Hardly ever in our 21, almost 22 years of marriage have I done that. I would rather be a little more quiet and private. Some of what the characters in our plays are saying is a little more quiet and private, and we're, to some extent, eavesdroppers overhearing them. But that's okay. I think that's okay. I hope that's okay. We'll find out. So what we're looking for, I think, in the place, and why we're doing them, I guess that's the question, is why we're even doing these. I mean, you know, the 600 or 800 of you that are here clamoring for tickets because you've heard what a great night of entertainment this is. Don't you feel like 600 or 800 people, Teresa? Okay. Either that or 35, I don't know. You know, obviously, this is a different kind of event than coming to see Oliver this summer, which you'll find extremely exciting to put on in Barn, by the way. Not that I'm doing any shameless plugs, but do come and see Oliver this summer in Barn. Which should, unless we fail miserably, have you entertained for an hour and 45 minutes. Just liking it and being entertained and not having to work. There's something you have to work a little with Wilder. I almost think of, especially his playlets, as almost poems enacted. Take some of the great poems of history, a sonnet by Gerard Manley Hopkins. I mean, you could spend a life learning to express a sonnet by Gerard Manley Hopkins and still not do it justice, probably. That's what we're doing. We're enacting this poem for you, maybe. Or almost an essay. And The Sea Shall Give Up Its Dead is in some ways almost an essay about the nature of humanity and our relationship with God, I guess. I mean, I don't know that Wilder is postulating any particular religious view, but most of these plays tonight, the first in Act 1, have at least some connection to biblical ideas and or classical religion of the Greek and Roman era. And what do we do with that? Who are we is the question he asks. Not what happens to us, but who are we and why? So in The Sea Shall Give Up Its Dead, we see three people at the very last moments before Judgment Day, if you will. What will that be like? I mean, if that's true, and it's your own call what you think about that all of us someday are going to stand before God and have our souls become one with Him or something else, then that's really true. I mean, I can't imagine, it is true that all of us die. None of us in here knows what that's like, I suppose. But most of the people who've been born in the history of the world know what that's like. I don't know what that means. But we don't. So we're, I don't know, hoping that these plays are part of what art does, which is to make us look at ourselves. That's what it does. Most art that most of us encounter most of the time, which unfortunately perhaps is in advertising. That's the most art that most of us encounter most of the time. Works on us and we're passive most of the time. And the other is entertaining to us. So we don't recognize the ways in which it works on us. But I'll tell you that my older children who watch no movies with guns in them, and my younger children who did start seeing some movies with guns in them, play differently. There are 10,000 reasons why, but I trace at least part of the difference in their upbringing to the art. Now, again, my kids aren't saying, I have seen Bonanza and therefore I do not care about human life. Bam, bam, you're dead. I don't, Amy, ever thought that out loud in your head? I don't think so. So it works on us in a different way. Mere entertainment does. The difference with the Wilder plays maybe is that we need to sit forward a little bit and think about the ways in which that they can work on us, instead of letting it work on us more passively, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does or not. We'll find out in an hour and 45 minutes from now if we're still here. I hope we will. We can talk about what you think about it. So, here we go.
I'm here to talk a little bit about Thornton Wilder, and like all human beings, he's too complicated a person to be summed up in just a few words. So we're going to try to use a lot of really big words and try to totally confuse you. But as Groucho Marx once said, don't be discouraged. With a little study, you can go a long way. I wish you'd start The first play that we're doing is, as you can probably see, is the Skunter Poetae. The title comes from the Latin phrase, the Skunter Poetae funt oratores, which means poets are born, orators are made. And in a way it means that, you know, not everyone is born with the poetic drive in a way, but everyone can become an orator, or a speaker, or a judge, or a lawyer, which is what an orator was in the time that the saying first came. In his preface to Three Plays, Wilder wrote that toward the end of near the 20s, he started to lose pleasure in going to the theater. He ceased to believe the stories he saw presented. And so he points to the mid-19th century as the time when things really started changing. When we started needing to have realistic scenery and plots and props and everything. Whereas before that, we were okay without them. And so he was going back to an older style of theater. And so this first play is Skunter Poetae, and the opening to it is almost a part of the play itself, and it goes like this. We are gazing into some strange, incomprehensible painting of Piero di Cosimo, a world of pale blues and greens, of abrupt peaks in a gate and of walled cities, of flying red stags with hounds at their throats, and of lions and tears beside their crowns. On the roads are seen traveling companies in no haste and often lost in contemplation of the sky. A boy sits on a rock in the foreground. He is listening to the words of a woman who dressed in chlamys that takes on the color of the objects about her.
Those about to be born are carried past them. They choose the brighter spirits, and you were chosen. And you were chosen.
Forward! Lady, the choice ball. Am I to mold in clay or paint? Shall I sing or mime, lady? What choice was given? From what master?
Is it not to know that you were chosen?
No hands! Okay. What further remains to be done? You poured my eyes and ears and mouth with my ointment. You have laid on my tongue the burning ember. Why the delay?
Do not be so eager for life.
Run!
too soon, and will be shaken by breath. Too soon and too long, you will be tossed in the tumult of the senses.
I'm not afraid of life. I will astonish him. Why are we late?
Sister is coming. Listen to her.
All's ready. What did you come to do?
My sister has given you the gifts of pride and of joy. But those are not all.
What gifts remain?
Those gifts are vain without these. He who carries much gold stumbles. I bring the dark and necessary gifts.
Your face is shadowed. Draw back. Take back the gifts if I must accept these also.
Too late. It's too late. You have been chosen. You must take these gifts.
I'm trembling. My knees are hot with my tears.
Since only tears can give sight to the eyes, you must take these gifts.
Then am I permitted to know the meaning of these pageants?
This is a tongue of flame. It feeds upon the brain. It is a madness that in a better country has a better name.
These are mysteries. Give them no names.
This is a leaf of a laurel from a tree not often plucked. It is pride in the shining of the eyes. Of that we will not speak now.
And this lady?
This is a staff that marks your journey, your whole life long. For you will be homeless.
And this? This is crystal?
That's yours alone, and you shall smart for it. It is wonderful and terrible. Others shall know a certain peace in the life that they shall live, but you shall be forever hindered. For you, there shall always be a lost meaning and a more meaningful love.
Take back the gifts. Take back life. For at its end, what can there be that's worth such pain?
Farewell, child of the muses, playful of the bird-haunted groves. The life of man awaits you, the light laughter and the misery in the same day, in the self-same hour, the trivial and the divine. You are to give it a voice. Among the bewildered and stammering thousands, you are to give it a voice and to mark its meaning. Farewell, child of the muses, playfellow of the bird-haunted groves.
We must go now. Listen to that wind. It is a great fan of time that whirls upon the soul for a season.
and somewhat Augustinian idea of that souls exist before they inhabit the body. And so then the muses give him the gifts of poetry and the other gifts, the dark and necessary gifts. So the next plays that we'll be doing are largely based around water, which is an important part of nearly every religion. And then the next play is The Angel That Troubled the Waters. It's based on the text from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 5, 1 through 15. Around the pool of Bethesda gathered the disabled, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. They waited for the moving of the waters. From time to time, an angel of the Lord would come down and stir up the waters. The first one into the pool after each such disturbance would be healed, whatever disease he had. Water is one of the three essential elements to the planet which we can't create. The others being earth and fire. So in this play, a doctor in need arrives at the side of the great pool, to which come the blind and malformed and healers. The angel denies healing to this physician on the grounds that his very illness is required for his healing. And so the opening paragraph to this play is the pool, a vast gray hall with a hole in the ceiling open to the sky. Broad stone steps lead up from the water on its four sides. The water is continuously restless and throws blue reflections upon the walls. The sick, the blind, and the malformed are lying on the steps. The long stretches of silence and despair are broken from time to time when one or another groans and turns in his rags, or raises a fretful wail or a sudden cry of exasperation at long-continued pain. The door leads out upon the porch, where the attendants of the sick are playing at dice, waiting for the call to fling their masters into the water when the angel of healing stirs the pool. Beyond the porch, there's a glimpse of the fierce sunlight and the empty streets of Oriental noonday. Oh.
What are you doing here, my only
from you.
I know.
There's no shame in boasting to an angel of what I might yet do in love service if I were but freed from this bondage.
The water is stirring strangely today. Surely I shall be next.
I must make haste. Already the sky is afire with the gathering host. For it is the hour of the new song among us. The earth itself feels the preparation in the skies and attempts its hymn. Children born in this hour spend all their lives in a sharper longing for the perfection that awaits them.
Such an hour is born. And doubly fearful if I was flowing in my heart. Must I drag my shameful princess singer all my days, more bound than my
Without
nature?
your wound, where would your power be? It is your very remorse that makes your low voice tremble into the hearts of men. The very angels themselves cannot persuade the wretched and blundering children of the earth. As can one human being, broken on the wheels of living. In love's service, only the wounded may serve. Draw back.
My hand! It's new as a child! Glory to God! I can begin again!
What happened?
Maybe next. But come with me. Only for an hour. To my home. My son. He's filled with dark thoughts. I do not understand him. Only you have ever been able to reach him. My daughter, ever since she lost her child, sits in dark shadows. She will not listen to us.
In running water. There was that one specific tradition where if someone was sick or handicapped in some way, priests could form a figure of that person out of clay and take it down to a river and with certain rituals could heal the person by healing the clay image. And how that works, of course, we don't know. In his forward to these short playlets, Thornton Wilder wrote, almost all the plays are religious, but religious in that dilute fashion that is a believer's concession to a contemporary standard of good manners. The next play is The Angel on the Ship. It asks the question, when God appears to have deserted the scene, can a false god suffice? So, 3 exhausted survivors of a shipwreck in mid-ocean put this proposition to a test when they turned the figurehead of their broken vessel into the great god Lily. And so we're on the foredeck of the Nancy Gray, lying disabled in mid-ocean. The figurehead has been torn down and nailed to the forepost facing the stern, back to back as it were with its former position. It is the half-length of an angel bearing wreaths. She is highly colored and buxom and has flowing yellow hair. On the deck lie 3 persons in the last stages of rags and exhaustion. Minna, the captain's wife, the remnant of a stout, coarse woman, Fan, the undercook, a little sharp youth, and an old sleepy member of the crew to make the sand.
Well, there she is. She's the new god of the Atlantic. Well, it's only G-Gall, but that's good enough gall for a sailor.
Also call Lily. That's the name like the gods.
You don't be quick. Won't say a prayer's quick.
She can't hear us. That's just the old figurehead that we stand behind for 30 years.
Her's an angel. Her knows everything. Come on, that's the Joss way. We all got to do it. Come on.
Also pray in turns. Us must be quick. There ain't no more water to drink. There ain't no more sails to carry us on. We'll have to be quick. Jung begin, Van. Jung's a great law of words.
Oh, great God, Lily. Here on the Crompton, this here ship, Nancy Bray. All's lost with us. You don't bring some rain to drink. All the secret water I've saved up is gone. And I'll have to go over the side with the rest of the crew. If you don't bring some rain, of course. Today. Or tomorrow. I said my prayer, great God, Lily. Amen.
Great God, Lily. I'm the captain's wife that sailed behind you for 30 years. Many a times that I shine your face, so you look spick and span. And we sailing into London or into heathen land. Well, you know what I did to my husband, and that I didn't let him have none of the secret water that me and Van saved up. But you've gone and forgiven everything. And send us some rain or by and by we'll die. And there'll be no one here praying to you. So, this is I guess the end of my praying, great God, Lily.
Say amen.
Amen, great God, Lily.
Okay.
I'm just an old dog. I've been on the sea since I was born. I ain't got no land education.
Come on, you got to say your bit too.
We all got to pray for someone.
God forgive me. Great God, Lily. I'm old Jamaica Saturday, don't ever go ashore. Amen. And, well, I've been drowned too. Several men and the captain's wife. And they gave me some of the secret water, so that if they died, I could roll them over the side and don't leave them on the clean deck. Amen. You've known my whole life, great God, Lily, and how I stole the Portuguese red bag. Oh, it was always empty. And that other thing. Send us a lot of rain now, and the ship to save us. Amen.
You've gone and forgiven me everything. Sure you have. I didn't kill the captain. The secret water was mine. I saved it up. You've gone and forgiven me. And now you'll send me home to my uncle in Amsterdam. Well, so I can inherit the 3 call body.
She'll say, Sam, that I've gone and done what gods don't like. Then after me. They were coming for me. Finally got me. We're saving Sam! Sam!
Save is all right now.
It's the movie of Teresa Third. Coming straight at us.
Wait a second. We gotta get this down. Quick, come on, help me with this.
Great God, Lily. You ain't going to do anything to her.
They'll call us heathens. Come on, give me a hand with this. They'll call us heathens, all right.
Our bright starry eyes. We're afraid to.
Some people use the word myth to mean something that isn't true or false, when really it means story. And a very important story that are part of stories to a lot of cultures are sea monsters. The Leviathan is one mostly from the Mediterranean, which it would be the Italians, the Greeks, and the Hebrews. And it's described, the Leviathan is described in the 41st chapter of Job. And then there's also the Sea of Worms between Iceland and Greenland, which is where the Vikings told stories about these worm creatures that would eat the sides of their ships. And in this play, a mermaid is surprised to find a shipwrecked prince adrift on soggy pillows on the sea. The prince is no less surprised. Is she an illusion, born of dreams or songs or fevers? He offers to trade some of his great treasure for his safety. She will only be satisfied if he pays with something she's heard about, a soul. So in the play, Wilder writes, Mid-Mediterranean, sunrise after a night of storm, with the sea swaying pitilessly. Phoenician argosy has been wrecked overnight. Ships and men have disappeared, leaving only cargo spread out upon the waters. Momently, new treasures from the ship's holds float upward and, reaching the surface, are swept hither and thither for miles. Persian rugs, great lengths of brocade, boxes of spices made from tropical leaves and bound with dried vine, and an apparently interminable swath of gray silk unwinding from its ivory standard. storm, you, all this is but the painting with my fever. I shall awake in Venice with the lute player falling asleep by the window. I'll call to him now, and he'll wake me out of this. Amadeo, lute player, shake me out of this dream.
Who are you talking to? There's no one here but me, you and me only.
Amadeo, lute player, does not answer. Then this is real. But you're a dream. You're an illusion.
I'm not a dream. I'm not illusion. I'm royal, Monsignor. I'm of the third order. On the 3 great tide days, I'm permitted to bind in my hair, that is, ashes, wear in my ears the higher murmur.
You are out of an old ballad taught me as a boy, and you come back to me now on the last tide of a fever. In a moment, my dream will have passed on from you.
You think I'm only a dream? Because you've heard it said that we sea folk have no souls.
Soul nor body.
How weird to keep yourself.
Oh,
Have you always with you?
here, help me, deliver me, hear my prayer.
Who are you talking to? There's no one here but you and me only.
You know where there's land. You can swim for days and days. Draw me off to some island. I'll reward you all you can ever desire.
Give me your soul. All my life I've longed for 2 things. Black hair and a soul. On one of these hands, you give me your soul.
It can't be given away. It can't be felt with hands, seen, or tasted.
Yet they say it's the greatest thing in the world. Without it, life is a cold procession of hours. It can all sight the eyes, all hearing the ears. You're mocking me. I see it in your face. You have it now.
And I'm about to lose it.
Give me your soul, and I'll drop from you to the bottom to see your father and your brother and all the girls to follow him and drive softly into the narrow street.
Amadeo! Lute player!
Count seen or felt. What can I do with it so? It's true. There is something gone. Lay about his eyes that trouble his mouth. The stone, perhaps. Got a guitar. There's no longer anything precious in this man. You may divide him among your young.
It is terrible here, great lady. These waters burn. Already my young lie motionless in the mud, dear lady. It is terrible to see them so.
I do not wish to hear your trouble. Take this man away.
Thanks. Gracious lady. Perhaps water will make me endure.
Cease.
Come, children. Come.
Perhaps it is better, though your body is past a Leviathan, still to have another part of you somewhere about the world.
Was interested in theater. He saw its good size and its limitations. A.R. Gurney, one of his critics, wrote, "Its very limitations seem to have attracted Wilder. He delights in calling the audience of attention to the artificial and crude machinery of the theater." Wilder's father wrote in a letter, "You're made it in 10 minutes. I quietly observed him writing as rapidly as he could, no changes. That seemed to me tremendous. He certainly has genius. He lacks the power to tie down to anything he doesn't relish, and so is barred from high achievements, I fear. And yet, genius has laws of its own. Another important story among the various cultures of the world are the stories of the end times. The stories of Ragnarok for the Norse, where the gods and the mortals are joined in a great battle and are all killed. And the end times are revealed to St. John in Revelation, and which is where this next play, And the Sea Shall Give Up Its Dead, takes its title, from Revelation 20, verse 13. Judgment Day is upon the world. As the moment of utter extinction arrives, three characters are swaying in the waters deep in the Atlantic. Although long dead, they're still wrestling with earthly identities and passions. An empress of Newfoundland, a theater producer, and a Christian priest. The clangor of Judgment Day's last trumpet dies away in the remotest pockets of space, and time comes to an end like a frayed ribbon. In the nave of creation, the diaphanous amphitheater is already building for the trial of all flesh. Several miles below the surface of the North Atlantic, the spirits of the drowned rise through the water like bubbles in a neglected wine glass.
At last I could struggle no longer. My head and lungs were under intense discomfort by reason of the water with which they were filled. I said to myself, only think, Gertrude, you've actually arrived at the moment of death. Even then I could hardly believe it, though my lungs were on the point of bursting. One can never really actually believe that one will die. It is especially difficult for sovereigns, who rarely, if ever, confront inevitable situations. Perhaps you know I am Gertruda, the 22nd, Empress of Newfoundland from 2638 to 2698.
Your Imperial Highness's experience was much like my own. I lived 500 years before your Imperial Highness. I'd always dreaded my moment of extinction, and yet it was less painful than a headache.
We know now the real pain comes in the ages that have passed since then. Have you too been swinging mid-ocean, tangled in a cocoon of seaweed, slowly liberating your mind from the prides and prejudices and trivialities of a lifetime? That is what is painful.
I was a Jew, and very proud of my race. Living under what I believed to be the aspersions of my neighbors, I had nourished the arrogant delusion that I was notable. It's taken me 500 years of painful reflection to disembarrass myself of that notion. I was a theatrical producer, and believed myself to be important to my time, wise, witty, kindly. Shed each of those notions with 100 times the pain of losing a limb. Now I'm reconciled to the fact that I am naked, a fool, a child.
In my life, I believed everything to which I said my had some peculiar excellence. It was nearly impossible to imagine a citizen proud of any country save Newfoundland, or any woman vain of any hair save the golden. genealogies and antiquities. And felt that such things merely look forward to myself. Now, all these years, I've been wrapped in barnacles, slowly divorcing my soul of all that it once loved. Even my love for my son and my son's love for me have vanished through sheer consequence. I was afraid that when I had shed away my royalty and my beauty and my administrative talents and my pure descent and my astonishing memory for names, I was afraid there would be nothing left. Fortunately, underneath all this litter, I found a tiny morsel of one. Shall we say the name? But what was yours?
Horationism.
Speak to that man that's rising in the water next to you.
You, sir. What is your name, and what particular follies have you laid aside?
Oh, I was a priest of the gospel. Yes, terrible time I've had taking leave of my sins. I trembled to think that only a few moments ago I still retained a longing for stupidities. May I?
Please.
Yes, sir, for the planets. I imagined that each one has a personality of its own, and that after I died, I would listen to their own individual songs. Only now I see that the sun and the moon and the stars have just fallen like dust into the lap of their maker. And I thought that after I died, I should spend eternity listening to the conversations of Coleridge and St. Augustine and our Lord. And I would embrace my loved ones and my enemies. And I would be vindicated before devils the great doctrines of infant baptism, sacramental confession. Only now I've been delivered from these followers. As I sway in the meteoric slime, I begged God, forgive me for certain sins of my youth, moments that I well remember, pride and rage and shame. Only they seemed to be of no importance to him. He seemed rather to be erasing from my mind the very notion that my sins are of any consequence. And now I see that the very idea that I was capable of sinning was a self-flattery and an impertinence. My name was Father Cosgrove. Now my name is Worm.
We cling obstinately to our identities,
Yes.
as if there was something important in them. Why, right this minute, I feel relics of pleasure that I myself and no one else. Yet, in the moment, there is a moment, we shall all be reduced to our quintessential matter. And you, Mr. Nisson, will be exactly indistinguishable from me. And then God himself will be unable to tell the Empress of Newfoundland from the Reverend Dr. Cosgrove.
I'm afraid. I refuse to give myself up.
Don't cry, I've awakened my
Do you hear?
God, take away my...
I refuse
life. He was described, when he wore his glasses, as a wizened old owl, always watching everything that happened. But then, when he was without his glasses, they saw his fiery genius coming from his bright blue eyes with blade-like sharpness. He saw that all people were good and bad at the same time. But unlike a lot of romanticizing authors throughout history, he doesn't draw very much distinction between the two. He doesn't praise the good overly, and he doesn't cut the bad any slack. One important character that he uses in several of his plays is the stage manager. Ironically, our stage manager's name is not in the program. It's Christopher Alexander, and while we're at it, we might as well mention Abby Kuhlman, who was the production coordinator. Folks, if you want to grab a water, feel free. And as the stage manager in our town said, you can go out and smoke now, those that smoke.
Something to eat. There's been a frogman on this island before.
him.
Tell him your man is hungry.
Yes.
Let's hurry. Yes, your ladyship. To think that this should happen today, of all days. Think of all the years he has lived. Jenkins. Yes, your ladyship. I will go now, but I don't think I'll ever see another old man again. I want to look at him. Defeat Jenkins. Old man, have you any wives and children? Linda, I shall have you jailed. Yes, your ladyship, but with all due respect to your ladyship has been very severe with me over these past few weeks. I cannot avoid which jail, but I thought since I was the one who found this man that I would be permitted a few words with him. 2 minutes, Belinda. Aww.
Mistress Jenkins, yes, I have a wife married, a son John, and a daughter, Betsy.
Are you very cruel to them?
Madam?
All old men are cruel and nasty-tempered. Everyone knows that. Your eyes are different than our eyes. Maybe some old men are a little bit kind.
I'm hungry.
Yes, I will go, your ladyship. I will go. No, badly. Don't speak to anybody else. I'm to the dress. So it'll make some time.
Lady Sybil, do I understand correctly that on this island there are no older men?
I do not wish to enter into conversation with you.
My soul, you cannot be of stone. You are not a child. I have not hitherto been regarded as a contemptible thing. I have been a guest of kings and queens, and been their guest at meat. I am Captain Leonard Gulliver, and I'm not a dog.
I have never seen a dog, but I think you must greatly resemble one.
You have seen nothing at all save this one small island. You are not in a position to say you have seen anything. I'm astonished that you have no questions for me about the world that surrounds you.
What questions would those be, Captain Gulliver?
Ignorance is a misery, but there is another far greater, and it is a complete lack of desire to increase one's knowledge.
But I've been mushing in a short time. You've come from out there. And who took poisons with you? Your outward infirmities also marks from the country from which you came. They must be as painful for you to bear as for us to behold. However, you will not have to bear them much longer. Captain Gulliver is not accustomed for commoners to be seated in the presence of nobility. I see you are indeed deep. I said it is not accustomed for commoners to be seated in the presence of nobility.
Well, Your Highness must forgive me. I was fatigued and hunger.
While you are waiting, here are some comforts I will give you for my children.
Your children, Lady Sybil.
The children on this island live in a village all their own. They're well tended, they're happy. That's the custom here.
I thank your ladyship. What is also that music?
You forget everything you are told. Today is a diet-break festival starting with the children's Morris dance.
I should greatly like to see this festival.
Continuing with the children's, the hoop dance and the dagger dance, the Duke of Cornwall will be here in a moment. The greatest victim hoop dancers ever been. He's one eyes to eyes. Moreover, he's the only man who's kept a kite together for an entire day.
An entire day. That's very impressive. I trust the Duke is of mature years.
I did not hear you correctly. Actually, he's a mature years. He's undammonized, 28.
Good heavens, girl, what do you do with your older persons?
Captain Galloway, there's no profit in pursuing a conversation with matters you're not capable of understanding.
You murdered them. You killed them when they reached the age of 29.
How dare you address me in that manner, vulgar, brutish Englander? Barbarian! How can you talk of subjects you know nothing about?
Dread to hear. Now, can you answer me this question? What do you do with persons who reach the age of 29?
We drink our wine. We sleep. We are placed on a boat. And the tide carries us away.
Thunder, this is hellish!
Strain your senile violence, Captain. What I've told you is the custom on this island. You don't understand the word custom!
And you, Lady Sybil, will you drink that wine and lie down in that boat?
When I'm old? Gladly. I'm 4 years left here, and that's a very long time.
No one ever rebels. No one at the age of 29 wishes to live any longer.
Captain Galloway, you prate. You're right. You forget that you're old. Very old. Your life is over. Anybody can see that.
Your ladyship must permit me to sit down.
It's understandable that the Duke is occupied today. You're right that he has most importunity.
The matter was quite beyond my control. Little did I know that I was arriving on this happy island on the day of the great hoop dance. On future occasions I shall endeavour to arrive with more propriety.
Occasions, Captain Galloway. At your age, you can't speak with certainty of future occasions.
Lady Sybil, I am thinking of your children. You shall never see them grow to young manhood or womanhood, and you shall never hold your grandchildren upon your knee.
Captain Galloway, you are tedious. I've read of such things in books.
Yes, you have books, I see.
Yes, we have 127 books.
Sybil, I throw myself upon your mercy. You are a woman, and women of all ages have tempered this rough world with mercy and kindness. I see that you have great influence on this island, graciously exerted on my behalf. I see that there are boats there tied up along the shore, and I have had something to stay my hunger. You might advocate with the Duke of Cornwall, bid him to grant me one of those boats.
Where would you go?
That island or continent there, that shore on the horizon, those mountains.
Nothing to do with such matters. Those are fishing boats, and they are tied with thongs that only a few nobles can undo.
Lady Sybil, I have a wife and children. You have children.
Naturally, I have children.
Well, show some kindness to me. Permit me to...
Be silent.
Oh, yes. Humanity. It is the last thing to be learned by man.
Captain Galloway, you may be certain that nothing on this island will be done that is not for the wisest and best. We are enlightened here. We were Christians. That music you heard came from Westminster Abbey. The Archbishop of Canterbury was addressing the contestants of the games. If you were a young man, we'd be proud to show you how happy our existence is, how perfect our institutions. This perfection is rendered possible by the
Redriff home. Lollipop. Mary. Oh, forgive me.
He's fallen into a swoon to present.
Throw some water on his face. tourist port of London.
How old are you?
I'm in the middle years. I'm 46 years of age.
They tell me that you have been 3 days without food. Simpson, place the food on the table. Eat! Captain.
Your Grace. Commoners do not sit in the presence of nobility. I shall eat the food when you have departed to take part in your festival. Your Grace, I have been shipwrecked on the shores of many countries, and shipwrecked on several. And I thank you for this reprieve from my hunger, and I trust that hereafter I shall be permitted to visit your cities and learn of your customs and ways. And in exchange, I shall tell you of other parts of the world that I have visited, and in particular, I can tell you of the country from which your ancestors came, and whose language you speak.
You are a tedious old man. Simpson, we've brought you distance. It is not suitable that a commoner hear this nonsense. I shall call you when it is time for you to stand watch over the captain.
To be young and to have no curiosity about the country of one's ancestors. To be young and ask no questions about the shore that lies there on the horizon. To be young and oh, the immortal gods, to have no adventure of mind or curiosity of spirit. I know now why you gladly end your lives at the age of 29. Yes, gladly. That was the word that Lady Sybil used.
That should not be difficult for you to understand. You with this decay of mind and body.
No, it is not old age that frightens you. It is the far worse enemy that frightens you. But I detain you from your games. Go and enjoy your garlands and trophies. But one question before you go. What do you call this country, this island of yours?
Well, we call it, well, how should we call it anything?
Each one has a name in which it takes pride.
Proud? Proud? All of them are proud?
Yes, they were and they are.
Among these 20 countries was there one that was not governed by old men? Governed, misgoverned, burdened, oppressed by old men? One which doesn't constantly war at the instigation of old men, like himself, to enlarge its boundaries, to enslave others, to enrich itself? We know the War of the Roses, and one which was not envenomed by the religious bigotry of old men. We know of the St. Bartholomew Massacre, the murder of Charles, king and martyr, and where these prides of yours have obtained their lands, whose bodies are those lying upon the field of battle? They are the bodies of men under 30. We need no name to distinguish this country from others. Say that you are in the country of the young.
So be it. Since I am not welcome here, I request a boat with which I may rid you of my presence. How did you get here? Who brought you here?
Oh, God!
God. And where did you acquire this distaste, this hatred of the young, of old?
We have no boats for that purpose.
The smallest would suit me.
No boat of ours has ever made that journey and never will.
Well, perhaps your grace would allow me to purchase a boat. I have here a ring given me by the king of Laputa. It is the purest of alchemist gold.
You've been here a few hours. Already, Lady Sybil has told me that you have offered us insult and have spoken of our customs with contempt. And now you wish to introduce barter and trafficking and gold! Gold, which is above all the instrument by which the old keep the younger in subjection. There is no gold and no trading here. You shall never leave this island, and you shall not long envenom it. We shall make you a present for which we ask no return. We shall give you the only happiness that still lies open to you.
Duke of Cornwall, Duke of palm trees and sand, I can see now why you would gladly end your life at 29 years. 29 years of jumping through hoops and playing games and dances shall have been enough. Already you are advancing toward a decay worse than old age. Boredom. Infinite boredom. Youth, as they say, is a cork on the waves. Yet to itself, you do not want to do it yourselves. It is only under the severity, the well-wishing severity of your elders, that you can shake from yourselves the misery of your aimless estate. You elect yourselves into societies. You call yourselves dukes and earls. Do I hear correctly that each man among you has several wives? You play games. What more can you ask for 29th birthday than slumber?
How can you let him speak to you so?
This is what we do. Baffled and embittered age, envy and jealousy, despising those things of which he is no longer capable. Perhaps we should take this man and exhibit him for all to see.
And for all to hear.
And to hear. What would you say to them?
I should tell them that if a man is not civilized between the ages of 12 and 20, he will never be civilized at all. Though it is not an easy task. It is the likes of rolling boulders to the top of a hill, and involves the whole community, and with what doubtful success. For every one Isaac Newton or Christopher Wren, there are 1,000 more that roll down to the valleys, occupy themselves with jumping through hoops. I see that your happiness is stale already. You are weary of life. Old age has marked you.
Oh, I'm young enough. Mr. Simpson! Mr. Simpson! You are in charge of this man. See that he's not leaving the clearing. Do not enter into conversation with him. It would suffocate you. I shall send someone after you to relieve you. Comrades of all.
Oh, your grace, I'm ill at sight. I'm ill.
Take a man of yourself.
Oh, is it yes? I'm ill.
Fool! Go to the city.
Strike her! You stroke her! Strike her!
We permit no weakness here, neither ours nor yours.
Humanity is the last thing to be learned by man. It shall not be learned from the young.
If you fail at any point in your guard over this man, you will be put to the press. And you know what press I mean? And you will be removed from your office as builder and constructor. If he tries to leave the clearing, kick him strongly at the shin bones.
Is there no way, Mr. Simpson, that I may view the games from a distance? Very sorry. They must be wonderful. The dances, and the hoops, and the games. Is that often that you strike women, Mr. Simpson?
Often?
You strike women frequently, Mr. Simpson. You're proud of your civilization, yet when you are angry, you strike and you torture. Sorry, what did you say, Mr. Simpson?
I said he strikes and he tortures because he's old. He will die next year.
You will be killed next year. That's not quite the same as merely dying. You will be killed. It's no wonder he's excitable. In the regular course of things, a man grows more kindly and of mild disposition with the passing years. So you're a builder and a constructor, are you, Mr. Simpson? An architect. Lady Sybil spoke of Westminster Abbey. Did you build this Westminster Abbey? London has. You must build very solidly, Mr. Simpson. Yes. You have stone. Coral, I see. Limestone. Yes. That arch and the vaulted roof. It's not easy, huh? Now, Mr. Simpson, you should see the dome of St. Paul's. Now, there's a sight. I'm glad you're not in a disposition to talk, Mr. Simpson. Otherwise, you might ask me questions about how a young man would live like yourself in my country. It would cause me shame to describe it to you. Always working to acquire more knowledge, morning until night, and then at night by lamplight, to be a better doctor, to govern more wisely, to be a better builder, Mr. Simpson. Get down on your knees and thank your Maker that you live in this happy place, where learning never penetrates, and where older men do not encourage the younger ones to increase their knowledge and skill.
The old men drive them like slaves and take the credit and the profit.
Yes, but the younger men succeed them. They are not killed at 29, and they become master builders themselves, and they can decide for themselves if they be just or unjust. But I reproach myself that I prevent you from taking part in the games.
Commoners do not take part in the games. I'm a builder.
And you built this?
I and the new Westminster Abbey.
The new Westminster Abbey? Oh. And this Westminster Abbey, it is built of stone.
Aye, the pillars at the corners are.
Corners. And the roof is made of thatch, oak boughs. You have great storms in this part of the world, Mr. Simpson. I see that the storm that washed me up on your shore has damaged this little shelter for good. Was your Westminster Abbey able to withstand the force of those winds? You don't answer me, Mr. Simpson. Your Westminster Abbey seats what? 400? And its roof is palm boughs. Oh, Mr. Simpson. You don't know the secret of the arch and the buttress. Ah, Mr. Simpson, you are happy. Remain happy. Let us not think of the labor that went into those discoveries.
Do you know how to pile stone so one could fall?
Mr. Simpson, I did not come to this island to poison it with thoughts of industry and progress.
But you do know.
Maybe someday, maybe in 100 years, some youth will be born, and he will light upon the laws of the arch and the buttress. He will show that youth stands on its own, with no need of its elders, no need of the accumulated wisdom of the ancients. Yes, Mr. Simpson, he will build an arch, a roof, like the dome of St. Paul's.
How high is it?
60 men standing on one another's shoulders do not touch the top of it.
You are lying. All old men lie. Eat your food, go to sleep. I ask you a question and you give me a lie.
I spoke the truth, but your reproach is justified. There's nothing worse than to arouse the ambition of a young man. But it's your fault. You were asking me questions. Next thing you know, you'll be proposing that we take one of those boats and cross that shore yonder on the horizon. But I'll not go, I tell you. No.
The boats are tied and we cannot untie them.
Yes, those thongs the nobles keep.
They're twisted and untwisted with hooks of iron.
Iron?
Aye, the only piece of iron on the island, and the
science and knowledge. But I won't go, I tell you. Just give me this day, bring me the wine, the sleep. Why should men bother his head about raising domes? Just games, hoops, dances, begetting children, sleep.
These things you call secrets.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
The arch and the badness. The old men keep them to themselves, that's certain.
Cease, Mr. Simpson, to talk of things you know nothing about.
How would a young man learn them?
You're asking dangerous questions, Mr. Simpson. I bid you again, get down on your knees and thank your Maker that you live in this happy island where learning never penetrates, where the older men do not encourage you and urge you and struggle with you to enrich you with all manner of knowledge and skill.
I do not believe you.
Yes, a youth would learn these things by crossing that water, making his way into a country that does not waste all its time with dances and games.
I do not believe you. Old men are wicked.
I'm the only old man you've ever seen.
Then tell me!
What?
These things you call secret. The arch and the badness and the other one.
I don't know them.
You do? You tell me, you wicked old man. You tell me.
I'm a seaman and a doctor. I'm not a builder.
You do know. You tell me, you wicked old man. Tell me. You tell me. I want to let you go. So you tell me. Oh man. Oh man.
What have you done? Have you killed him?
No, he has died of old age.
He's still breathing. I think it's a swoon. He's not as ugly as he once was. Now he's got this rat on his face. And maybe some old men aren't nice.
I do not understand a word he says. He should not have come here.
This strange thing wrinkles up. I could ask him questions all day. Mrs. Simpson, let him go back to his people.
How would he do that?
This is the hook that was lost last year. I found it on Lady Sybil's dressing table. I think she hid it there for me to find it. I think she hid it to spite the Duke of Cornwall. Unlock the boat and let the man go.
No.
He's not strong enough to sail the boat alone. Take it and let the man go.
Do not speak to me. I will not go among other men. I do not know anything. He does not know that we commoners cannot read. Every over there would see that I'm a booby.
Mrs. Simpson, look at him. Get down. Look at him. He could be your friend. I think some old people are good, Mr. Simpson.
No.
He's waking up. Go away and think. Mrs. Simpson. Take the book.
Oh, it's you. Where's the young man?
He's nearby. May I ask your name again?
Captain Gulliver.
Captain Gulliver. Captain Gulliver, if you were to return to your home again, what would you do first?
Mistress Jenkins, I would go up a steep street. You've never seen a steep street. I think it would be at sunset. And I would knock at the door, and Mary or one of the children would answer the door, and I'd go in, and soon we'd be seated around the table. And we'd give thanks to God, and eat childhood of the civilization. Maybe 5,000, 10,000 years. Mistress Jenkins, maybe in 1,000 years, things will be able to change on this island. The man will have one wife, and only one wife. I think that when he was 29, your father was only just beginning to understand what the joys of being your father could be. But it was too late. You all die on this island just when a new world of heart and mind is being opened to you. Let's go. Mrs. Jenkins! Mrs. Jenkins!
One of the characters in another play that Wilder wrote said, "Only one Belinda in 10 ever learns anything." Another character says, "Books and plays are a quiet, harmless fraud about life." And O. Henry in Proof of the Pudding writes, "People in real life don't find their heroics in blank verse at emotional crises." Thanks for coming. Good night.